Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Our guest today is Jack Shirk. He's a studied angler, dedicated fly fisherman, avid trout conservationist, and just a great guy. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting down and talking some fly fishing today. It was a great episode, and I can't wait for you guys to listen. Hey, Jack. Welcome to the Mountainside Podcast, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited. This is awesome.
Thanks for coming in, man. I'm excited to meet you. This is our first time kind of seeing eye to eye, other than texting back and forth a little bit. And excited to hear some fishing stories. And I know that you're an avid fisherman, and the weather's starting to get nice. And,
yeah, finally, man.
Yeah,
Feels
and
good.
I am an avid fisherman.
Awesome.
Or I try to be anyways.
Right.
And I think that we have a lot of listeners that are too.
Cool. That's good to hear, man. We
want all your tips.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm willing to share for sure.
Okay. Awesome. So the weather's been getting nice. I'm sure you've been on the water. From what I've read about you and everything, it seems like you're pretty much on the water every day.
I am, man. I try to fish about 3 times a week is like my kind of happy spot between working enough and fishing enough that I feel good about it. So normally I'll do like a afternoon weekday outing, try to get out like after work, and depending what's close, I'll hit the blue or do whatever, and then I fish probably both days on the weekends, most days as well. I'm trying to change my circumstances so I can fish more and really try to make a career out of it. So that's the direction I'm trying to head. But
I don't blame you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, with the weather getting nice and everything, it's and we're starting to see some bugs starting to fly around a little bit. You know,
I've seen some salmon flies coming off, those big ones.
Yeah.
Man. So that's been nifty as well.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance. I've been so busy with the podcast and just normal life and being a dad that I haven't really had a chance to hit the water other than like stepping out right here. And you know, that's the best thing about living where we live and living in Colorado and in the mountains or close to the mountains like you is you can be in a stream in a matter of minutes, right?
Man. And in great water too.
And gold medal waters like all over the place.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I've been in Colorado about 3 years now in the summer and then going back home to finish up school and stuff like that as well. But man, I came out here and got hooked. Like it's incredible. You have so many fisheries that are close to home, and then you have all over the state. It's endless. Like you can be up in the Alpine fishing for cutthroat. You can be at Cheeseman fishing the South Platte or the Dream Stream. I mean, and everything in between. The opportunities are truly endless. That's for sure. Yeah,
it really is, man. There's a million spots to go, and part of it's just kind of knowing where to go and how much do you want to get cut up getting in there.
Absolutely, man. For sure.
But have you been out at all this week or?
I haven't been actually. I've been pretty busy at work this week, but I'll be out. I'll probably.
You've been riding, haven't you?
Yeah. All over the place. No, but I mean, I've seen them riding. And it's been crazy. Like we were talking about, I live downtown, so they've like rided right in front of our house.
Wow. But downtown Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The last few nights, man, it's been more peaceful, so that I feel like it's trending in the right direction. The first few nights were wild though, man. Stuff was on fire. People were bashing in windshields. You could hear like the fireworks going off. But yeah, it seems like it's trending in the right direction, so that's been good. But no, I haven't been out this week yet. I'm planning to go to the Taylor River this weekend, which holds huge trout. So I'm really excited. A lot of people go fish it at night, and you can catch them at night, but during the day, man, they are tough. Like you can run hundreds of flies by them, and they just won't move. So that's what lately I've been trying to figure out how I can catch those fish, because I feel like that'll be a mental victory for me is when I can get those fish to finally take. It's been tough. But
so are you planning on going up there at night then?
Yeah, so is what I'll probably do. I'll probably leave work Friday, go camp. There's a ton of campgrounds. It's a really beautiful area too, man. If you go to Buena Vista and go over Cottonwood Pass, they just opened up the pass last week. And you go down over the pass, it's just so gorgeous in there, man. There's moose, elk, all kinds of animals. But they have really nice campgrounds that just opened up too. So my girlfriend and I will probably just throw up a tent, sleep there Friday night, wake up super early on Friday or Saturday and try to get after it. So
So what time would you hit the water? Like 2 a.m. or something?
Man, I've been getting up around like 2:45 to 3:15 and getting in my car.
So kind of that first light is...
Yeah. And, man, I used to be more on the side of like, I'll get up when I, 7 and roll out. But as I've gotten more dedicated and really got into it more, I've realized it's so hard to beat the crowds in Colorado, right? Like the Dream Stream, for example, I'm sure you're familiar. I find my best success there in the first hour or two because I beat everybody. I'm the first truck on the water, and the fish they're not spooked yet. You can sight fish to them, and that's the biggest thing, right? So if you're a fish, right, you're laying there and you get spooked once on a Saturday. Okay, I'm gonna go hide under this rock for 10 minutes. I'm gonna pop back out, and then it happens again and again, and eventually you're just gonna go and you're not gonna come back out. It's the weekend now, right? My buddy Jesse jokes all the time. They know when it's a weekend. He doesn't fish on the weekends because he's like they know. But yeah, I found it. I have to fish on the weekend, so it's really pivotal for me to be there super early in the morning. So I catch most of my fish, I would say, man, from first light to like 8 a.m.
And then you go get a good breakfast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With a smile.
Yeah. It's like, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't like to spend my entire day fishing. I like to hike and drive and go see national parks and state parks. So I like to do other things too. So it's nice to go and hit it in the morning, get what I need to get done and get my fix and go do other things as well. But if it's tough, man, I'll sit there and grind all day too. I'll fish from sun up to sundown. So, but yeah, I would say, man, I've been fishing a couple hours away, like up in Steamboat and stuff recently too. And it's been early mornings.
Yeah.
But
well, the early bird gets the worm, right?
Absolutely,
Especially
man.
now.
That's what I say.
I grew up here in Colorado, and it wasn't like that back in the day.
Right.
I mean, you still had to go deep. You're going to run into people, but not like it is now. It's crazy the influx that we have here, and that's kind of one of the catalysts for us starting the podcast, right? And me taking the initiative too.
Yep.
And but I'm having a lot of fun with it, man. Too.
Yeah, man,
and we welcome anybody and everybody. I just want them to treat it right.
Which is awesome. Yeah, man. And that's the thing, too, is I feel like that's been a challenge, too, is not being a native. You do get a little bit of resistance.
Yeah, there's some...
I just think
there's some hate if you're not a local out
there.
Right,
absolutely.
For sure, yeah.
And
it's normally the guys with the native bumper stickers, though. Those are the ones you got to watch out for.
Absolutely, man.
We love you guys, too. Just take it easy a little bit.
Yeah, cut us a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the crowds too, I feel like with COVID have been amplified, and it's got people on edge. I think the biggest thing, man, is just be respectful and share the water. Everybody's just trying to have a good time. But yeah, especially the South Platte, really the whole drainage has been packed, and that's why I've been kind of exploring more, which has been fruitful, man. It's been awesome, like getting out and just checking news.
Finding new spots.
Yeah, man, and it's like, because I've almost been pushed there because coming from Pennsylvania, man, you can go fish the best streams in the state and see like 2 people all day. You know what I mean? Like at certain times of the year, there's nobody else there. It's awesome. There's big fish. There's nobody else in the river. You just go have a good time. Out here, that was a big adjustment for me, man, is like, especially in a place like Cheeseman, this time of year, you go out on the weekend, like there's a dude in every hole. And that was frustrating for me for a while.
You're basically relay racing up the river,
exactly.
man. It's crazy, like trying to get to a hole before
really
somebody else does.
And being an athlete, or an ex-athlete, I was so competitive with everything, man. So it'd be like, I'm first here, like I'm gonna hit every hole before it. You know what I mean? And I've gotten better with that and transitioned more out of that because it's not worth it, like the stress.
Right.
But yeah, it's been crazy, just the crowds because of COVID. Everybody's, it's one of the few things you can still do. I feel like we're starting to get more back to our normal way of life, but yeah, it's just been like.
Well, and I've noticed an increase in it, or an increase in public lands and parks, especially just because people have time off, right?
Absolutely.
And they don't want to be stuck inside. We're all live in Colorado, this beautiful spot, here, man. Right? Yeah, and Absolutely. There's all these great places to go try and do and see and explore. And, I've always found, and like my buddy Mark said it best, is, the first 2 miles are crowded, but then after that it's not too bad.
That's my secret with Cheeseman, is to hike up into the middle where nobody from the top comes down that far. Nobody from the bottom gets in.
You gotta bushwhack it a little bit, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, the biggest thing, man, is respect. Like everybody, like I said, is trying to have a good time. And for me, man, I won't go and fish on top of somebody without asking, right? Like there's times where it's so packed that you're going to be within visibility or 50 yards of somebody. It's just impossible not to be, right? And I think the biggest thing for me, I just go up and ask them like, hey, sir, do you mind if I jump in above you? And they're always like, no, man, go for it. Like, and that for me.
Yeah, sometimes it's just that common courtesy like, hey, how's it going? Did you catch anything today?
Right.
Do you mind if I fish above you?
And honestly, a lot of
just
times you
nice,
make a new
man.
friend.
Yeah.
You make a new friend. They're like, oh, yeah, man, I caught him on this. And that can clue you into what's going on the river and help you catch more fish, or maybe you do the same for him.
Sure.
I think it's a two-way street. I think where people get upset is when the courtesy and respect is not there, and people will just jump in right above them. Especially, too, I feel like the people who have fished there all their life, right? Like,
yeah,
this is where they've made their claim. Like, they love fishing there. It's their pride and joy. So I think it's just really key to be respectful. And, I mean, when it's packed, like, I'll fish close to people. It's just like, hey, man, do you mind? And sometimes they're like, oh, I prefer you not. Okay, sure, I'll bump up further. Like, no biggie.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times we're like, yeah, man, jump in. Like, I hope you catch something. So I think that's just the name of the game, especially right now with everything going on and how packed it's been. But
yeah. So you mentioned Pennsylvania. Let's talk a little bit about your background, right? You're originally from PA?
Yep, for sure. Western PA, a super small town in Western PA. Yep.
Awesome. And is that where you kind of found your love for fishing, or is that...
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So my dad and probably his dad before that have been trout fishing in Western Pennsylvania and Central PA their entire lives. My grandfather had a camp on a lake, but the stream that fed the lake is where he would fish all the time. And there were huge brown trout in there, and they would catch just massive browns, and they would spend all day at the river. And if they weren't at the river during the summer, they were fishing on the lake, catching crappie and perch and everything in between, largemouth bass. So my dad really got me into it at a young age. I would say I know there's one picture of me like fishing a stocked pond at my grandpa's camp holding a big rainbow trout. That is probably the earliest memory. I mean, I don't even know if I remember it really, but I've seen the picture. So I feel like for me it's been since I was little. And then from there, man, it's really been my escape for as long as I can remember. I probably trout fished up till I was 13 or 14 heavily with my dad. And then I got like super hardcore into bass fishing. My buddy took me bass fishing. I was like, wow, this is fun. Like, this is new. And I went kind of balls to the wall with that and got like into tournament fishing. I bought my own boat when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like crazy.
So like the Bassmaster type style of fishing,
yeah,
right?
like I was.
Man, that's big money too. That's no joke, right?
Now it's crazy, man. Like a boat and a truck and a rig is going to cost you like $150,000. Like
everything's got all this technology. It runs from your iPhone and shit.
Yeah, the Humminbird fish finders are like $3,000 a pop. It's nuts. Wow. It's true. And fly fishing is the same way. Everything's so expensive.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because it's tough for people to get started without.
But I feel like, and I'm no expert in it.
No, go ahead.
But I feel like you don't need to have all the top of the line stuff, right? Like obviously, it's nice to have nice gear, right? But you can still get the job done without having
man.
like
until like honestly,
an $800 rod and an $800 reel and a
absolutely
$500 pair of waders, and like you can get it done with. You can go in the river with shorts, man. The water's not that cold,
especially in the summer.
Yeah,
like that's a
feels kind of good, right?
I wear sandals, dude.
You can get gravel guards for what, $20?
Yeah, they're like $35, and you stick them in your wading boots and go have a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, up until like I don't know 3 months ago, I was using like $150 rods. Like my whole arsenal was bought off Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
Used gear. I still buy all my gear mostly used. I mean, recently I've got some more newer stuff. But really, dude, Facebook is the place, man. Like I bought wading boots and rods, reels. I find good deals, man. I'm a bargain hunter. My mom put that in me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Facebook Marketplace has been awesome. But recently I upgraded some rods, and I will say there is a difference. I mean, but really, do you need it? I mean, unless you
can still catch fish.
Absolutely. You catch huge fish on cheap gear. Like you don't, and it gets the job done, and it'll last you a long time if you take care of it. But I mean, I'm out there 3 to 4 days a week, so I figured, what the heck? I'll get the nicer stuff, and it does make a difference, but it's not necessary, for sure. So.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that, but let's keep talking about your background. So. Grew up fishing in PA.
Yeah, so...
And I thought I saw somewhere, or I read somewhere, Limestone Creek? Or?
Yeah, so a lot of Central PA has awesome limestone water, right? And it's just conducive to huge trout, especially huge brown trout. But yeah, so especially around State College, you have Spring Creek, Bald Eagle, Spruce Creek, all hold giant brown trout, especially if you're hitting it at the right time of the year. So I really grew up fishing Bald Eagle a lot, and then as I got older, I ventured more into Spring Creek and Spruce Creek and places like that. But yeah, when I was like probably 14 to like, I don't even know, 19, man, it was like bass fishing all the time. Like it probably ruined a couple relationships for me.
Right.
Like, I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting off the water.
Think about this, because I grew up here in Colorado, and there wasn't much to do in the mountains, right? You could, A, go find some booze somewhere underage.
Yeah. Right.
B, I mean, even at a really young age, I feel like it kept me out of trouble, because if it was the middle of summer and there wasn't ice, or even if it was winter, you could still catch fish.
Yep.
And I didn't really fly fish much then, but I was big into like, the water restrictions are so different now from what it used to be. It used to just be live bait wherever you wanted, just go for it. There was a bag limit, right? And I think it was like 14 trout or something. Man. Right. It was crazy. Wow, now it's like 2 absurd, or something, right? Like,
it is. It's 2,
I mean, we're talking the 80s though, so that's what, 30 years ago. Yeah, showing my age. Well, dude,
that's
how
I got my start fishing too. Like my dad still fishes with a spin pool, and like the fly fishing community will like hunt you down with a pitchfork if they catch you out there these days.
Really?
Like a spin pool. But for me, man, like I've seen both sides of the spectrum, right? Like in Pennsylvania, most people fish with spin rods versus fly fishing.
That's fun, man. When I take my kid, just here's a worm, and as long as
way to learn fishing,
as long as we're staying within the regulations, Yep. And some of the national parks, like Rocky Mountain National Park, if you're under a certain age, it's artificial from like 16 up.
Yep.
And then below, they can use live bait, man.
Yeah,
and you
I'm
can
all
just
for it, man.
Slay.
Yep.
And
dude,
slay
that's
fish.
the best way to get kids in the sport, man. Like it's not fun if you're not catching fish. Like I mean, for me at this point, it is, because I just enjoy it no matter what. But like as a kid, you need to get their attention. They need to be catching fish. So I'm all for it.
But that was one thing I was able to just go. I was lucky that my parents gave me the leeway to like go do it.
Yep.
Go outside. Go play.
Yep.
We didn't have iPhones. We didn't have all that sort of stuff to keep us distracted or keep us inside. Really, it was like inside was boring because you had 3 knobs, and it was either daytime soap operas, the news, or PBS, right? Some old lady talking about
whatever,
a cuckoo clock, right? So I was like, shit, man, I got to go find something to do. And that's really where I fell in love with fishing. And it probably kept me out of a lot of trouble, because I would just be in the stream till dark, and sometimes after dark. You know?
Dude, and I mean, you sound a lot like me. Like I grew up on a small hobby farm where we grew hay. Some people grew corn on our land. Like we were just always doing something, pounding in fence posts or whatever it was. But I totally agree with that, man. I think I was super fortunate. Like I had free reign. It was like, man, if you weren't doing something, go. I had dirt bikes all my life, dude. I was riding like 25, 30 miles from home. Me and my buddies would do that all summer long. So it teaches you a lot of accountability, responsibility, right? Like you've got a flat tire 20 miles from home. What do? You fix it. You know what I mean? You figure out a way to get back home. Playing in the creek, like just doing stuff that I feel like kids these days don't do as much of, which is like, it just helps you occupy yourself. You know what I mean? Like I don't need anybody to like go have fun. Like I can go do things on my own and stay occupied. And I think I was just really fortunate in that. Like I had a lot of experiences and a lot of responsibilities as a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sounds like you had that as well.
Yeah, very similar. I had a dirt bike, and that got me in a little bit of trouble, but it actually kept me out of a lot of trouble too. I think but yeah, man, I think all that stuff's great. And now that I have kids, I want to instill those same sort of things in them. And Jeremy, our man behind the curtain, we kind of briefly touched on this before we got started. I know we kind of ramrodded in here and just got after it. But he's from the same area,
which is
PA,
just absolutely crazy.
Or he's from, I don't know, I'll let you guys talk about it.
A stone's throw.
No, I'm from the eastern side of Pennsylvania, but my dad grew up basically in the same area that Jack did, which is like, you got to try to find it.
Yeah, truly.
So it's not something that you just drive through. Coal mining.
Yeah, coal mine towns.
Town,
and it's a shame.
My grandfather used to work on the railroad and haul coal, and it was, the railroad went right past his house, right through Sidman. It's wild to find somebody who even knows where it is.
Yeah, it truly is crazy, especially.
But it's funny,
we're
talking about
here.
dirt bikes. It's like that's all that my dad and his brothers got around on, and when we would go out, my dad would scare the hell out of my mom by putting us on the tank of a dirt bike and just like you said, disappearing, going riding through all the farms and everything, like 50 miles an hour with your son on the tank with an oversized helmet. Like I'm holding the helmet so I can see through it.
Right. The helmet would break your neck if you actually fell.
I know, it was pointless. It was doing more harm than good.
Right.
But yeah, so totally.
And Jeremy, your kid's got a dirt bike now, right?
Hey, he does. But
yeah,
it's not
Tyler's been bugging me.
It's not like that. It's completely.
Yeah, but he's all over it, man. Right? Like
no.
He's ripping.
No, totally. But man, being able to pull out of your driveway and just rip and not go for run the tank out.
Yeah,
I mean, just do laps. He used to slow down. There were always these wild dogs on the farms, and they would all run down the road when they would hear the dirt bikes, and he would scare the hell out of me, slowing down and letting all the dogs like nip at us and then take off and just terrorize these animals.
Right.
But it was it was
that's
cool.
actually
cool
the catalyst for me getting my first job was I had to pay for my own gas to put in my own dirt bike. It's like, shit, man, I got to go get a job now, you know? Like, this thing's gas hog.
I haven't been back there in a while, but it was like every time I went back there, it was like a time capsule. Not a whole lot changed all the way up until I was like in my I'm 43 now, so like when I was in my 20s, I've been there since I was probably 30. But it was, up until then, it was like a time capsule. Not a whole lot changed. Everybody was sitting on their porch counting the cars that went by. It was cool.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. All the things you just said, it remind me of home so much. It's wild. Like, that is exactly what we did. Like, we jump on our dirt bikes in the driveway, leave a roost tail going up the driveway right into the woods. Like, it was.
Hell yeah, that's fun.
My grandparents, literally, they would sit on the porch and count cars.
Yep.
That was a thing. It was.
I bet you they were drinking, weren't they?
They weren't. Oh, they were religious. No,
oh, really? Okay, sorry, Grandma and Grandpa.
No, it's funny. We'll Jack and I'll talk later. I bet we know a lot of the same people. But
sure.
Boy, that's a special place.
So I got to ask you I got to ask both of you guys, where is Elk, Pennsylvania? Because I'm a photographer, or I'd like to do that as a hobby, and I'm actually getting published in Bugle this.
No way,
edition.
man.
Yeah,
Congrats.
this month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's north of there, I believe.
Yeah, it's northern Pennsylvania.
Okay, because I always wanted to go there, and the name obviously intrigues me, but I know that there is an elk population there, and I'd love to go take photos of them during the rut, or something. And occasionally, because of the industry that I'm in entertainment, I end up in Lititz, Pennsylvania, which is a big hub for live event type stuff or concert type stuff. And I know that's only a 3-hour drive from there. So I'm always like itching at the butt, especially if I'm there in October or September or anywhere in that window. I'm like, I got to go up there because I've never seen an East Coast elk.
You should, man. You should go up there. It's beautiful. It's like the most mountainy region, I would say, of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Like we actually, my dad and I would always take me up there for the first day of trout fishing. Like that's what's crazy about Pennsylvania is they have a season, right? Where everybody the first day there'll be hundreds of people lined up on the bank. They stock all these fish, people keep them, and then it's over. Like that's it. It's here and gone. But we would always go up north to Potter County, which is that neck of the woods. It's beautiful, man.
That's Thanksgiving time. I'm sorry, that would be not what's the date? The opening Thanksgiving. What was the opening date for?
It's like, oh man, I don't even. Sometime in April and then they close it down to restock it. So it's like you get the spring to the late fall, I believe. There's some streams you can fish year round. They call them delayed harvest or something.
I was trying to think of the time that my dad would disappear from home would be when deer season would start and when trout season would start back home. It's just a given that. Oh, I guess
he's going to be
deer season's the first Monday after Thanksgiving.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Fishing in
whitetail season.
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Are there big bulls running around up there? I mean, is it like Colorado elk? Or?
No, I don't think. I can't really speak to it that much because I've seen a couple elk in Pennsylvania, but it's not like out here.
Okay.
It's not like when you drive through the park.
I had no idea that it was a thing until Bobby mentioned it to me.
Right.
And I was like, I spent a lot of time, my whole life in Pennsylvania, but a lot of time in Western Pennsylvania, and it was never even talked about. It was just all deer.
Yep.
Yeah, I never knew until I started looking it up, and I actually think I found an article or something in Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or in Bugle Magazine or whatever, right? And I think it was on Elk, Pennsylvania or something like that. And ever since then, I'm just like, because I always find myself in PA in the industry that I'm in, like I said, and it's like stone throw away. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Man, it's gorgeous.
I'm an elk fanatic though, so. when it comes to that. But so we'll get off of Pennsylvania a little bit here.
I'm driving back this summer, Bobby. I'll strap you to the roof.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure I'll be back soon. So, I'd rather fly.
Yeah,
that's a long drive. Yeah. But what ended up bringing you to Colorado, or what was it? Fishing or?
Yeah, man. So I would say it's definitely a big part of it was fishing. But my brother also was an Army Ranger. He's 11 years older than I am, 10. So there's a big gap there. But he was an Army Ranger. He got out of the Army, started his own business out here, and then I started working for him right before I went to college with that business. That's where I still work today. But yeah, he moved to Colorado because him and my dad are huge elk hunters, right? So they've been driving from Pennsylvania out to near Eagle along the Colorado River is where they hunt. But yeah, they've been doing that for, 30 years, man.
Really?
So they go out. It's a huge operation. They take like 4 buddies with them. They send up their own tents. They don't take a guided trip or anything like that. But yeah, so last year was the first year I went out and kind of hung out with them, which was super cool. But yeah, they've been doing that forever. So my brother, I think, fell in love with Colorado at a young age. As soon as he got out of the military, he moved out here right away and has been here since. So I came.
Was he stationed here as a ranger, like in Colorado Springs or anything? Because I know that they have a big Green Beret.
Right. Yep, for sure. And a lot of his buddies out here are from that area. But
nice.
Yeah, no. So he just moved out here, and I came out for a summer, man. I was like, this is it. Like, this is the place for me. So then as soon as I came out another summer, and then I graduated college, and then I came out here full time, man. I don't know. Like, I could see myself maybe in another mountainy region. I don't know, like Montana or Idaho or somewhere in Wyoming. But I don't think at this point I can see myself in like a warm weather state. So
sure.
I think this will probably.
I consider Colorado a warm weather state.
Dude,
almost.
It's so hot out here, man. Like compared to Pennsylvania. That's why, man. Pennsylvania's struggle. Not to go back to Pennsylvania, but it's sad.
No, it's all good. That's where you're from, man.
Yeah, like
this is your episode, so we can talk about it as much as you want. I didn't want to make it sound like that.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I love it. I'm so grateful for my hometown, but it's sad to see it, man. Johnstown was was one of the Franklin neighborhood or borough or whatever you want to call it, was one of the richest boroughs in the United States when the steel mills were booming, and Pittsburgh was a huge thing. South Fork, Jeremy, your neck of the woods there. Yeah. That was like the dam that flooded Johnstown was like a billionaire's playground at the time. Like Andrew Carnegie.
Okay.
I can't remember the other guy, Fick or Frick or something, his last name, but this was like their playground. They had built that lake, and it was what flooded and basically ruined Johnstown.
So what happened? Did the dam break or what?
It was an. My grandmother used to work at the
Dam
Museum. So let me.
The Dam Museum.
Yeah, pull that up.
Museum. No, it was like an earthenwork dam, and for a long time, I guess there had been people talking about how it was going to fail. And
it busted.
Really?
And it just blew open, and dude.
Yeah, there's stories of people like riding the roof of their house down the river.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it was devastating.
I worry about that right here with the studio, especially with the cracks that I see in our dam.
So many dams in Colorado. I'm like, man, standing here fishing right below this thing.
I got a question to ask you too. After we look at this,
look at this. So imagine the amount of like we've got cranes and stuff that could like make short work of this.
Right.
This is what the whole area looked like.
Wow.
And they had to get rid of all that by hand. There's body.
What year was that?
It was
1889 was one, I believe.
That's the crazy thing about some of those towns in PA. Hey, Jeremy, too, if you could screenshot.
1889, yeah.
Okay, if you could screenshot that, too, so we can throw it up on our video content, it'd be awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy because, like, when I go and stay in Lititz and you're walking down Main Street, right? It's the first, like, pretzel was ever made in Lititz or whatever, right? Yeah. And you're looking at all these buildings have like plaques, and you can tell that they're old. I mean, just by looking at the construction and the stonework and the they taken adze and make beams, right? Or took logs and added them down or whatever, however that works. But it's cool, man. Some of those buildings are older than America.
Yeah, well, to Jack's point, and he was going to get it, but I'm going to head him off. It's so cold in the winter, and it's so hot in the summer.
Well, you got the humidity factor,
yeah,
right?
Dude, that's exactly it, man.
It's a big difference.
It really is.
You can be in 35-degree weather here and be in a T-shirt, and 35 degrees on the East Coast, it feels like 15 below here, man.
Dude, and the sun never shines, man. That's the worst part.
That's
I feel like
gray.
Yeah, let me take that back. When it's 35 degrees and you're in the shade, it's a different story. But if the sun's out here... You know, with the elevation and all that, it makes a big difference for sure.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you have all these factors, right, that weigh in. Like the economy there is just it's like the 4th fastest dying city in America. Because it was once booming because of the steel. Now that industry's completely gone.
Right.
Coal is completely gone because of the environmental factors. And now it's like nobody's coming. So all the elderly folks are, dying off, and there's nobody refilling the population. So it's just going downhill so fast. And it's a shame because the area is beautiful, man. Like it really... I mean, if the sun shine more, like you have no sun, it's cold. The summer, it's so humid, like it's just not. So it's a shame. But out here, man, the weather's sunny
when I moved
day.
out here, my mom said to me, she was heartbroken, and she said, "There's mountains in Uniontown. Why don't you move there?" And I said, "It's not quite the same."
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's crazy. A bunch of kids from my baseball team, my college baseball team, I brought them out here just like I call it the Colorado Tour. I'll take them like down to Buena Vista and then head up through Rocky Mountain National Park. And like every person I brought moved out like within a month.
Yeah.
Like, yep, I'm sold.
I think everybody's done that. It's crazy. It's 10,000 people a month or something like that. Man, it's insane.
Crazy. And all the apartment buildings going up. It's just, it's wild. I mean, there's another reason you have the.
I get it though, man. This is an awesome place. I really do. And
I'm curious to see, man. Like, and I can't say anything because I'm an implant too. But I'm just curious to see, like, what is the limit? How long does that take? Is it in 5 years where people are like, oh, we're gonna start populating Fort Collins more? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the? Because the infrastructure, man. Like, look at I-25 or look at 470, man. There's like every summer I've been here. And since I've lived here full time, the construction it's never stopped.
It's been my whole childhood, man.
So how do you keep up with it? Yeah. Like, what do you do?
You just keep building.
Yeah, keep building. Fast as you can and try to keep up.
It never stops, man. And that's the thing is, like, we have so much publicly protected land here, which is awesome.
Yep.
But I see so many people mistreating that. Right. So I think it's just a lack of education. And, you know.
Yeah, see, and that's my thing too with the fish, man, is I see so much mishandling and abuse, like not because they are trying to hurt the fish, because they're just not educated. And like, I don't know, when I took my hunter safety course to go hunt and shoot a gun, like you had to take a course. Right. I'm not saying they should do that with a fishing license, but maybe like a online, like an infographic, like you have to answer 5 questions.
Yeah, it's just education,
hey,
right?
wet your hands before you grab the fish, or hey, if the water temperature is over 67 degrees, like let's
talk about that a little bit, because that's one of the things I want to do on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now. Like the South Platte has no water in it. So
yeah, and is some of that due to the Roberts Tunnel closing or the?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So can we get into that a little bit, or can you speak on that, or do you know? What's going on?
I'm not going to claim to be an expert because I'm not, but
nor am I.
I read a lot. I dive into a lot of research and stuff like that. So I do think I have a little bit of knowledge on it. So yeah, Roberts Tunnel, they just got turned on, right? So then they dropped the flows coming out of Cheeseman Reservoir way down, right? Well, Cheeseman Reservoir is like 30,000 acres or feet or whatever it is from being filled, right? So it's really low. So if we don't have a good rain season here and we don't get a lot of precip, it's going to be a rough summer at Cheeseman and Deckers and down through like the Denver South Platte, just because there's not enough water, right? Now, if we get a lot of rain and it fills up, which I feel like is a long shot, we'll be okay. But yeah, it's what happens basically is they were pumping out like 300 CFS out of Cheeseman Reservoir up till a couple, maybe.
And what is CFS? Do you know?
Cubic feet per second.
Okay, so just so for our listeners
that don't know. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's just how you measure water coming out of a dam. So really the best fisheries, in my opinion, all across Colorado are tailwaters, right? So it's all these streams are dammed up for agriculture uses, drinking water, etc. But basically... is what happens is they need to be filled up, right, to let the right amount of water come out, and for farmers to suck their water out. You see that a lot, like on the Colorado all the way down through. And like,
just to be clear, we're feeding a majority of the country their water, right? And
with the Colorado River, man.
I think what happened with Dillon Reservoir, which the Robert Tunnel is fed out of, right?
Absolutely.
Is the water rights changed, right? Like I believe California bought the water rights. So they're starting to flow that water in an opposite direction, right?
Yep.
Crazy.
And I think, too, the Denver Water Board or whoever controls like Cheeseman and a lot of the South Platte reservoirs has just had a major change or transition, too. So it's under new management. And I've seen a ton of people like really, locking in on them on Instagram, giving them a rough time about how they manage the water. But I don't know. It's easy to sit there and say that. So I'm no expert, but I know is what the reason. And the thing was like, oh, why did they not fill up Cheeseman Reservoir? Right, they're letting massive amounts of water come out, like 300 CFS for the longest time. Why'd they just not use that water to fill it up? And it's because Roberts Tunnel was not turned on, so they needed to meet that demand downstream. So they had
that tunnel's crazy. For anybody that's listening, like it is, I don't know how many miles. It's probably 80 miles or something like that.
Right. I'm honestly not sure. So
it's insane. Like I've heard stories of my uncle or somebody like that, right? And it was always a third party, was part of the inspection crew, and they would ride like these tubes or rafts down at why it was flowing to make sure like
everything was
intact.
Oh, that would have been
crazy.
Creepy,
and I think
I'm
it's
sure.
like, yeah.
Well, I worked at
I might be totally wrong. Maybe Jeremy, if you could look that up and just see what some facts on the Roberts Tunnel is.
I worked at back in Pennsylvania. Jeremy, maybe you've heard of it, the Queen-Mahoning Dam. I worked there for a summer for the Water Authority.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Just doing dam maintenance and from everything from weed whacking on the dam to like riding these specialized lawnmowers straight up the dam. Like,
really?
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, but that dam, the release valve is actually under the water. So you walk in this tunnel way up under the water, and it's a very eerie feeling. You're like, wow, there's a lot of water on top of me right now. And here's this wheel that if you turn it the wrong way, it's just going to go whoosh. So
really,
yeah, and it's like dripping through the cracks up top. You're like,
and it's just one guy, right?
And you're just sitting there, you're like, oh shit, like this is sketchy. So
yeah,
it is scary. Like water's no joke too. Like the Colorado, I just ordered a raft, so I'm getting ready to learn how to row and float.
Awesome.
But yeah, the Colorado's pumping. I don't know what it was around 2,000 CFS last time I looked.
What were you looking for in Roberts?
I just wanted to know the length of it to see if I was right. I thought it was 80 miles, but it might be half as much or.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it too, so I don't have.
But yeah, anyway, so that tunnel's been cut off.
23 miles long.
Holy cow.
1,000 feet underground.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was way off.
Yeah, but still, think how far 23 miles is.
Yeah, that's a long ways. That's a marathon.
Yeah, like imagine dynamiting that to build that thing. That's ridiculous.
And not to mention it's in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, like what's Route 70 tunnel? Like a mile or a mile and a half? 23 miles. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's insane. But that's basically what feeds. Is that the South Platte right there, right?
That's
the North Fork of the South Platte is what it is, right?
Yep.
And so have you noticed the water? I haven't been down there. Is the water level dropped?
Yeah, if you go to Cheeseman, you'll see the water levels on the rocks, and that's always a good way to tell too. You can kind of historically see, and it's crazy. It's like. And it is ultimately is what happens, right? The less water that flows through, the quicker it warms up, especially when we're having days like today when it's like 90 degrees, baking sun. It heats those fish up quick. And I know ethically the best thing to do is fish in the morning and get out before like the dead afternoon heat. And, always wet your hands, get the fish on hook quick, pinch your barbs and let them go free. But I mean, as long as you're taking precautions, right now you're still good. I don't think it's like
it hasn't really gotten hot.
Yeah, but if it continues at it's 75 CFS and it keeps up the heat, like it's gonna get rough. And you'll see the CPW will start putting out signs like voluntary fishing bans. I know the first summer out here was the summer like the Lake Christine fires, and we had all those fires because how dry it was, and there were signs everywhere. If it's after like 10 or 11 a.m., like hey, just please. Come back at this evening or whenever, just because the fish get so stressed so quick. Brown trout can handle warmer water better than rainbows can. Rainbows get stressed super fast, so that's just something to keep in mind as well. But, I mean, right now I think with proper care you're good. Like just pay attention to what you're doing. Don't.
So if somebody's just getting into fly fishing and maybe doesn't know, and I'm sure that we have a lot of avid fly fishermen that listen to this show too, but. And I don't want to bore you guys, but let's talk about some of the basics so we can preserve some of this habitat for these fish, preserve the fish. Let's talk about catch and release. I think that there's, definitely read the rules and regulations because that's what's going to keep those fish in that habitat, right? And I think that that's a big thing, and that can be a bit confusing too because it's not really cut and dry.
No, it's not.
And is there anywhere to find any of that information? I mean, I feel like the best thing to do is if you can afford it. Not everybody can, but if you can, spend some time with a guide or somebody like you, right, that knows the waters. They're going to navigate you into where you need to go. They're going to teach you how to fish and then properly care for the fish, right?
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. And as I was driving up here, I was like, man, I bet I'll get the beginner question, right? Like how to, and that's what I would do. If you can't afford it, go with the guide. Like they're just I think of like.
Go with the guide 1 or 2 times, right?
Yeah,
and then you'll know.
Yeah, if you can afford, like I think of my journey fly fishing as a roadmap, right? Or anything. If you're starting a business or a podcast, right? Like there's growing pains you're going to hit. There's these obstacles, hurdles that along the road inherently you're going to run into. If you can have someone like lay that out for you and you just soak it up like a sponge, like it's going to accelerate your development so much faster.
Sure.
And not everybody's looking for that, right? Not everybody that goes on a guide trip wants to get into fly fishing heavily. They might just be going to have a good time, and that's totally fine. But you're going to have a better time with a guide, right? Because he has that knowledge. He's going to be able to put you on fish. He's going to be able to have you in the right area, the right rigging. That's stuff you don't have to worry about. He's just going to teach you to cast, and you're going to have a good time because you're going to catch fish. But as far as beginning, like if you're someone who's looking to get into fly fishing, there's so much to learn. And everybody goes at their own pace. But I think as far as like conservation, like there's simple things you can talk about, like when fish are spawning, right? You don't want to fish to spawning fish. That's what basically, renews
repopulates the population.
And it allows us to have good fun 5 years down the road. And it's really easy to spot a trout red, they call them. Maybe, Jeremy, you can pull one up too. If you just search like rainbow trout red, REDD, you'll see. But it's what these trout do, right? They clean the bottom and they clean them in circles. So you'll see moss all over the bottom. All of a sudden, you'll see a bare clean bottom and there'll be a trout sitting right in the middle of it. You don't want to fish to those fish. They're spawning. You don't want to tramp on it too because their eggs are in there. And if you tramp all over it, let's see if he can pull one up here. But yeah, that's one thing that is huge in Colorado because these rainbow trout, right there. Do you see how it's mossy? And then in the middle, you'll have that bare spot.
Right, and that's where they're laying their eggs.
Yep, and it's it's ethically tough, right? Because as a fly fisherman, you want to catch big fish. You want to catch a lot of fish. And you walk upstream, and they're laying in 6 inches of water. There's a 24-inch rainbow, and you're like, oh, my gosh. He's right there. He's vulnerable, right? Because he's spawning. He's reproducing. And it's really hard not to cast to him, and that's just something you have to be aware of. And I feel like people catch so much shit online because people falsely accuse people of fishing off reds and catching these fish off reds when they're easy to catch, right? They're just sitting there. You can see them.
Do you get some of that criticism?
I do not. But some of my good friends have. And, they've been catching shit and they don't deserve to be because they don't. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Fly fishing is one of those sports. It's a very passion-fueled thing, right? The people who do it, they love it. It's their life. It gets you up out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to go chase these fish, right? It's an adrenaline rush. So people, they're so quick to throw shade and say, you caught that fish off a red, like blah, 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 blah. You shouldn't, that fish was spawning this and that. It's a really slippery slope because, a lot of people are doing it right and there is some people doing it wrong.
And I think for the majority of most people, they do it right. I mean, if they're not, I feel like it's education. So I'm glad that we're talking about it. And I'm actually learning a little bit on this too, and
that's really wild.
Yeah, I want to see that bare spot right there. And you'll see, sometimes there'll be one fish laying in there, sometimes there'll be 2. But once you know what to look for, you'll be like, oh, can't fish that guy. Like, it's clear as day. I mean, that's the thing. And it's not, I don't think very few people are.
I don't think very many people know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't think very many, and that it hits to what I was about to say. I don't think people are out to hurt fish or do things wrong.
Correct.
Intentionally, right? It's just like, how many people are out there fishing reds because they don't know? A lot of people. And I see, like, there's fist fights on streams out here. Like,
really?
It gets intense, man. People start cussing each other out. Like, I see it every couple weekends. Like, places like 11 Mile and Cheeseman, people get heated fast. And it's like, most of these people, they just don't know, man. So if they don't know, take the second to walk up to him and be like, hey, man.
Teach them, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know. I'm not going to jump on your shit right away. I'm just going to say, hey, that fish is spawning. Maybe, fish that one over there that's sitting in the deep run, right? Not spawning. And I think people are just so quick to point fingers, and it's like, hey, we can come together and educate versus, tear people down.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is just like water temperatures, right? Like if you take water temperature, that's like an easy, quick tip. You can basically have a good idea of what hatches are coming off, right?
So do you carry a thermometer with you?
I do. I carry a thermometer. That's one thing that in the last year I really have dove into. Is the study of bugs, like aquatic insects. It's etymology or however you pronounce it. It's a tough word to pronounce for a PA boy like me. But yeah, like studying bugs can really help you key into what's going on. That's obviously a little more advanced if you really want to get into it. But, yeah, I think handling fish is huge, right? So, like, if you catch a nice trout, be sure to wet your hands, right? It's easy. Just dunk them and grab them. They have a slime coat, like a mucus coating that helps them protect them. Yeah. It's like a protective layer that they have in their skin. And if you are, especially gloves, like you'll see, I don't even know what to search, but a lot of trout you'll catch in these popular rivers, like the Taylor especially. The Taylor, Cheeseman, you'll see they have these growths on them, and it's like this white pale, and it's from people handling them with gloves in the winter, and it strips them of that coating, and they can get infections, and it's just a long list of problems.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It's really disheartening, man.
Yeah, and it's gross, man. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, that thing has like warts almost. Yeah, like right there's 2 fish spawning too on a red. That's exactly what they look like. You'll see them, they're kind of like going sideways and flashing. That's when they're spawning. But yeah, you'll see these fish with mucus and growth and all these kind of nasty stuff on them. And that's because somewhere along the line, someone grabbed them with gloves and stripped them all that, held them out of the water. And my thing is, you can always tell, like from a picture, if somebody is mishandling them, because if there's not water dripping from them or they don't look shiny, they've probably been out of the water a while.
Right. And I think that's the big thing too. When you catch a big fish like that, if you're not keeping it right, you want to get a picture with it or something like that. So part of that, and I know that you do that on Instagram and stuff.
I take a lot of pictures. Yeah. I really do.
And so what are some things that people can do? Like have your camera ready, have it accessible, right? Because these aren't easy fish to handle either. They're wild fish.
And they flop and they're slippery. Yeah. But so for me is what I
have a partner maybe?
Fishing with it helps so
much.
Have
a social media partner.
Right.
An assistant.
A team.
Right.
A guide.
Yeah.
Look at this Instagram. This is wild. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've been fortunate this year. 2020 has been great to me. I've ran into some awesome fish, and
we're gonna ask you this at the end again. But you want to tell us what your Instagram page is so we can
so
let our listeners.
It's just at Jack Shirk Fly Fishing. I post almost every day. I try to. I think. For me, I've been fortunate.
Look at that. That's badass.
Yeah, big watermelon bow, man. That was up the Dream Stream. Funny story about that fish. I hooked him 3 times in about, I would say, 20 minutes. And he shook me off both times. But those fish, when they run up out of that lake, they're not conditioned yet, right? So they eat a lot. They just really do. I fed him the same fly 3 times. He ate all 3 times.
Wow.
And finally, the third time,
Dry fly?
No, it was a scud.
Okay.
That's a gift for the listeners.
Yeah, what is a scud?
It's like an aquatic shrimp. It's a freshwater shrimp, a variation, kind of a crustacean looking bug. Pat Dorsey ties a good scud.
That is badass.
Yeah, man, that was one of my favorite fish from 2020. That was a big Snake River cutthroat.
Wow. I love the native trout, man. Like catching wild fish.
Yeah, man, that was a special fish for me. Yeah. My buddy Spencer was with me when I caught that day. Wow. It was a lot of fun. And then my girlfriend Sarah actually caught a Snake River cut. If you scroll up a little.
Yeah, I got it.
Or that was a big bow that she caught. Yeah, that was crazy. She fought that thing for truly like 10, 12 minutes on 3-pound 7X tippet on a size 24.
That's a Hollywood fish right there.
Yeah, man. She gets after it. It's ridiculous. Like
That's a Brad Pitt fish right there.
Yeah, she'll break right if you scroll up a little bit right above that one. It's right there in the middle. That guy. That was another Snake River cut.
Wow, that's beautiful, man.
She caught that fish. That's probably my favorite trout I've ever seen in.
Sounds like you caught a good one, man. You got a girlfriend that fishes too?
I did, man. I'm extremely fortunate, man. She is a
Did you find her in the river? Or?
I did not, actually. Okay. So my parents have now since moved from Pennsylvania to North Carolina. My sister has 3 little girls, twins down there. So my parents are down there hanging out. And she actually is from North Carolina, and we met in Colorado. And she took to fishing really quick, man. She's just super outdoorsy and is all about it. So, yeah, it's great, man. She's caught the biggest trout I've ever held in my hands. I've never caught a trout that big. It's like, it's funny because she'll bring her book to the river. Like, she's not high maintenance by any. She's just all about going with the flow. So she'll bring her book and sit there and read. She'll be like, I'll fish a little. Like, I want to fish now. You know, I fished this morning. I'll take a break, read my book, fish. Well, every time she picks up the rod, dude, like 10 casts. It's like whack, bent over, huge. Like that cutthroat was like a 22-inch, beautiful Snake River cut. Like that fish was pristine. I don't think it had been caught a whole lot. Like awesome. No blemishes. But yeah, so I'm super fortunate in that category. She's taken to fishing really quick. But Honestly, I forget where we
were talking about handling fish and some of the things that you can do to help preserve or conserve.
Like I said, wetting your hands
rivers
is huge.
What about walking through rivers and stuff like that? So and habitat and
I'm all for
hatching.
Like, if you're down to wade in deep water, man, you can get access to fish. Like that's huge. If you can, if you're down with that and cool with it, and you feel like you got your sea legs good, like get in there, get close to those fish. Especially if it's turbulent water, fast-moving water, you can get close to them because they don't detect you as well, right? Where if it's slow, stagnant water, you got to be super stealthy, like stealthy to the point where you're on your knees or like army crawling on the bank. Like these fish are that smart, like right? Cheeseman Canyon fish.
They really are, man.
Dude, they're seeing thousands of flies a day, right? Like every angler that passes that 20-inch rainbow that's laying in the middle of a run in Cheeseman is going to make 50 casts to him. You have a 2 or 3 fly rig, like that fish is seeing a lot of patterns.
Right.
So stealth, for me, is just truly, I think if you pay attention to that, you can be really successful. But yeah, as far as handling fish and taking pictures with fish, I think a big thing right now, definitely release them fast, right?
Yeah.
It's hot. You don't want to stress them out.
Don't hold them out of the water for 2 or 3 minutes. That's the thing.
If you keep them wet, you can get good pictures with these fish. And oftentimes is what I see. And my buddy Jesse, who's taught me a lot about fishing, has taught me this as well. You can leave them in the net as long as they're wet and they can breathe and they're in clean water with a little bit of flow going to it. Like, especially when it's cooled out and the water's cooled, like you don't have to rush. Like,
and a net is such a good thing. It's great. It's a great tool.
Absolutely. You got to have a net.
It's a great way to handle the fish. It's a great way to get it out of the water. I mean, it's...
Yeah, if you're serious about fly fishing, a good net is a must. Fish Pond makes a great net. They're super light. They're big. They have long handles. You can reach with them. I love my Fish Pond nets for sure. They help you land more fish. And I'm not affiliated with them either.
Hey, Fish Pond, we need a sponsorship
here.
You weren't affiliated.
Yeah. They are awesome. But... yeah, so it's what I do, right? Like, let's say I hook a big fish, I land them. I get them in the net. The first thing I do is unhook the flies. I will take pictures with the flies in the fish's mouth occasionally if it's worth it, right? Like, if he has a big streamer in his mouth and it's a cool photo op, I'll make sure I take care of the fish, get a quick picture, but I always want to get them unhooked as fast as possible. And then from there, I just keep them wet, man. Like, I'll find, like, close to the bank a nice current with a little bit of water flowing through that's clean. You don't want to hold them in muddy water. So if you're in like a stagnant pool, like a slower pool, try to find somewhere with a little bit of flow. Never force.
Because that's how they're getting oxygen, right? I mean,
yep. Yeah. And never force water. People seem to have this like idea that if you hold a fish and grab his tail and pull him back and forth in the water and force water through his gills, that's good. But that would be like waterboarding us. Right. Doesn't make any sense. That's not good for fish. The best thing is point them upstream, let them get acquainted to their thing, and I'll just let them sit in my net. And really is what they're doing is they're recharging, right? They just went through this super stressful fight. I just let them in the net, and then I get the camera really close to the water. If I'm fishing by myself, I have a camera on a tripod. I set the self-timer.
What kind of camera? Is it a waterproof camera? I mean,
it's not. So I shoot with a couple things. I have a GoPro that's waterproof. Yep. Awesome. I shoot on an older Canon camera, DSLR. I'm actually looking to upgrade so I can start doing some videos soon, which I'm super stoked about. But I shoot on a Canon with a small tripod that I carry in a backpack, and then an iPhone. Man, the iPhone is like, if you have an iPhone like 8 or plus, like...
oh, they take great photos, especially for those up-close shots like that.
Yeah, you have $1,000 camera like in your pocket. Like, rock with that thing. Get a little tripod if you're fishing alone. Keep it in your pack and rock with it. But yeah, iPhone really, I would say, is the majority of my shots. But all I do is I lift them out of the water 2 or 3 seconds, grab a photo, dunk them. Lift it up, dunk. Lift it up, dunk. And that just keeps them wet. And you'll see in a lot of my photos, they're all dripping. And it's just really healthy for the fish.
It actually makes for a better photo in my photography experience.
It does. Like, it's cool. Like they're dripping. Yeah.
Taking, any sort of photo. Yep. If anything's wet. Elk, mountains, grass, trees.
I agree.
Looks
100%.
awesome.
Gives a nice shine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I do. And then what I find is a lot of those fish kick out of my hands better when I release them because they've calmed down, right? Excuse me. Yeah, they've calmed down. They've regained their sense of awareness. And that's when you go to net a fish. When you are fighting a fish, when you see him start flopping up towards the top of the water, he's getting tired, right? He's losing his steam. When you see him, he's starting to let you move his head, especially with big fish. I don't try to net till I feel like I have a little bit of control of him. And that's when I go to net. Because a lot of times when you reach for the net and stab, they'll surge. And that's when they pop off.
Right.
So once they start getting green and they start kind of letting you control their body and their head, that's when I go in with the net. But yeah, if you take care of them in the net, you keep them wet, you get your photos, it's a win-win. The fish swims off healthy. That's the thing too. You see a lot of people, they catch it, they release it real quick. Well, if you fought that fish for a long time, he's gassed, right? Like it's not ideal for him to go and try to swim, especially if you're in fast water. But it does happen, like maybe 2 times in my Colorado fly fishing career, I've had fish release. Like I won't sit here and that's another thing. Like you'll have these people act all righteous, this and that. Like you're gonna foul hook fish. Like that happens.
Yeah.
If you're fishing with an indicator, you're gonna foul hook fish.
I've done it.
It happens.
Probably 100
Anybody
times.
who says that doesn't happen is full of shit. Frankly, like sorry to get it.
Yeah.
But that's true. You're gonna foul hook fish, and there's gonna be times like if you're fishing in warm weather that fish aren't gonna take off super well, and that's when I think it's really important just to take those extra 5 minutes to kind of nurture them. Like you can take that time to make sure they take off good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, that's just like the extra mile, the extra part you can do.
And I think that's part about being a good sportsman and just having that instilled to you is you got to have that level of respect, right? And if you don't, we don't want you.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, that's how I feel about it anyway. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I want my fish to be able to, or my kids to go out and be able to catch these fish.
Exactly.
Like,
we want to preserve that for
the next generation. That's my thing too. Like I could get into night fishing. I do some night fishing. A lot of people are against it. A lot of people are like, dude, I love night fishing. It's all I do.
Right.
I have mixed feelings on it. I think it's okay in some circumstances. I think other times it should not be done. I think the CPW needs to step in and put a stop to it in certain rivers.
Are anybody, because I've never went out night fishing, are they using any sort of light or anything as indicators?
Yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff, man. Yeah. And man, I like it. It is fun. It is fun. It's a great way to catch huge, huge fish.
Sure.
It can be really fruitful. But I think you need, as an angler, to kind of have a responsibility to and be ethical about it because, for example, right, the Taylor River is a place that gets fished a lot. It's a popular tailwater, holds a ton of 25 to 30-inch rainbows, huge fish, and a lot of big browns as well. I've night fished there. I don't like to night fish there as much, especially, like, if you're night fishing during the spawn, like, you should stop. I think you should stop. That's not... My thing is these fish in Colorado, it's not Pennsylvania, right? They're seeing tons of flies.
Does the CPW post like when spawning starts?
I think
and
a little bit,
stops,
but I think they could do. They definitely mark off areas on the river, which is great. But I think they need to go in and do more. For example, the Taylor River, right? If you were to go back, I wasn't here, but from what I've heard, if you were to go back 10 years, it was a way better fishery than what it is right now.
Oh, I know it is.
If you were to go back 40, it was probably insane.
Yeah.
Right? So with more pressure,
getting depleted for sure.
It is. Yeah. And my thing is, if you're night fishing it every night, especially during the spawn, right? If they can't feed during the day and they can't feed during the night, what's going to happen? The fish are going to die. The big, large fish are going to die off. The fish aren't going to grow as fast, and it's just not going to be as good, right? And we're already seeing that. So, I mean, my wish for the CPW would be like places like the Dream Stream, any lake run trout too, the Dream Stream, the Blue.
Just close them down.
Just during the spawn, man, it's like a month out of the year. No night fishing. Like, if you want to go chasing during the day, good.
Sure.
Go for it, as long as they're not on reds, right? Go have your fun, take care of the fish.
And during the day is when you can actually see those reds, right? I mean, you're not going to see them at night. So.
Nope. And that's the thing is, like, if you're beating these fish up during the day and you're beating them up during the night, then... You know, when can they feed? When can they be a fish without having to worry about
putting a boxer in a never-ending boxing match.
Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen? He's going to die.
Yeah.
He's going to get depleted. And that's a great analogy. I like that. It was good because it's exactly what's going to happen, and we're just going to see it get worse and worse. And that's another reason these fish are getting harder to catch, you know, because they're getting fish to
It's crazy how adaptive they are and how smart they are.
They have a brain the size of a pea, but they get so conditioned, man. They're like, I've seen that 24 RS2 or I've seen that midge pattern 1,800 times, man. Like, get that away from me. And you'll see, dude, and they get smarter and smarter. They see line, they feel line. That's one thing, like, people don't understand. They see split shot. Like, those little legs you put on they see those. And then everybody in Colorado, like I come from Pennsylvania, so a lot of people fish a tight line rig or a Euro rig. You can Google to find more about that. You can go down endless wormholes on rigging strategies. But those fish see those big beach ball indicators. If you're fishing a 23-inch trout in 3 feet of water and you throw a neon orange indicator on his head, he's like,
Right.
I see that. Like, that's a beach ball. It's a disco ball on their head. So things like that are to keep in mind just to be more successful. But, yeah, I think to preserve our fisheries, it's tough, though, because I see it from the other side. Like, hey, what's the difference between catching them at day and night? Like, why can't I go have fun at night? It's not illegal. Like, I get that. I do. Like, I come from, like, a backwoods style fishing. Like, spinning rods and just live bait and everything that people out here would frown upon. You know what I mean? So I see it from both sides. I think during certain times of the year, it would be super beneficial to protect the fish.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate you going over that, and I don't want to just harp on that the whole podcast. I want to talk about some fun stuff too, and I think that for the most part, if you want some more education on that, I highly recommend hiring you as a guide.
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram, whatever.
There's hundreds of guides out there, right?
Yeah, many. Yeah, I mean,
and there's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge, and it can be very intimidating walking into a fly shop for the first time or whatever.
Absolutely.
And especially if you don't know what you're doing. There's so many choices, and everybody's an expert. And, when you go into one of those spots, and there really are some great spots. There's the Blue Quill is really close to us.
Yep.
Awesome guys. And
for sure.
They will get you some help, and there's a ton of other fly shops in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, wherever you're at, to do that, But
there's truly unlimited resources if you guys want to learn. You can read the internet,
to educate yourself. Yeah, spend the time.
And I agree, it can be very intimidating walking into a fly shop, but walk in and ask somebody. They want to help you. That's their job. That's what they get paid to do. That's how they make money. So I know everything's so expensive, but
don't be afraid to ask questions. Just ask as many as.
And it doesn't matter if the questions as basic as and it can be anything. Like, what line should I buy?
And
Do I need
think
waders?
The common mistake that people make is maybe they go in there and they're embarrassed to ask those questions, right? Because they want to get into it and they want to fit in, right?
Absolutely.
But don't be afraid. Just to ask, man. There's people there, and there's people that'll help you. And I'm no expert in it, and I don't ever shy away from asking a question and that's one reason why I'm having you on, I'm excited about this.
Yep, and that's the only way you learn. And truly, I think social media can be a great resource too. I mean, guys, I'm not going to sit here and act like an expert. I'm learning like the rest of you. Every single day I learn something on the river. And so many people have helped me that have been fishing in Colorado so much longer. Like, I have so many friends that I've connected with through social media and have been fortunate to fish with. That have helped me in so many ways. Like, I think that's the best way to learn is find somebody who you trust or a guide. Just ask questions and get help. It's the fastest way to advance quickly.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think that's what will help preserve it in the end, honestly.
Exactly.
Until we get some more literature and some more guidance from government agencies and stuff like that, once they get a little 100%. Bit more in tune.
Yep.
So let's dive into a little bit, like, what's your favorite rig? Like, if you're fishing trout,
sure.
Do you have an array of different poles and different line weights and stuff for certain days or certain trips?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, it's been a learning curve, right? So, and the thing about fly fishing is
it's kind of constantly a learning curve, right?
It never stops. It really never stops. I compare it
to, for me, and I don't know if you train jiu-jitsu, but I do compare it to jiu-jitsu. It's like,
I'm a white belt, but
are you? Hey, me too, man. Don't worry about that.
I trained at Catharo in Denver with Steve.
Nice.
Yeah, he's awesome. That gym is great. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's something like that. You go down this rabbit hole and you can just keep learning and learning and learning, right? Yeah.
Yep. And it's just so many intricacies. Like, with jiu-jitsu, it's body positioning. It's how you distribute your weight. And
it's everything. A feeling. It is.
Yeah. So I played 4 years of college baseball. There's a lot of things you
really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Where'd you play at?
I played at a Division I school in New York called Marist, and then a Division II school, Pitt Johnstown, closer to home, and it was awesome.
Oh, nice!
So many friends.
So you pretty much got to play in your hometown then.
I did, yeah. I played far away from home, and I played at home. It was so many. College.
Sorry,
sports.
I didn't mean to stop you in the middle of what you were saying, but that's cool. That's a good bit of information.
It is. It's awesome. You make so many lifelong friends and relationships that way, coaches and everything in between. But with baseball, you have a lot of things that go off feeling, right? With your swing, and you have to. It's weird. It's like this vague term. Like, did you feel that, or like, how does that feel? Like,
you got to be in your own head a little bit,
right? Yeah. He's pulling stuff.
Oh, dang!
Look at this guy.
All right.
Yeah, I was fortunate to get coached really well at a young age and had a fun career, man. It was a crazy ride through high school and college, but yeah, you go off a lot of feeling, right?
Did fishing mess up your pro baseball career, you think, or?
Man, I'll be honest, like, I think so. When my dream, right, and I worked my ass off all through high school to get a Division
or baseball messed up your pro fishing career. One of the two, right?
I would say probably fishing more than baseball, but yeah, man, all through high school I worked my ass off to get a good scholarship at a good school, and I loved baseball. And I think college baseball I didn't like it as much, man. Like, I trained my whole life because I love to do it. And then you go to college and you have someone, more or less like telling you what to do, jump, okay, how high, like this and that. And it was just like, I don't know. I kind of fell out of love with it. I got burnt out is what I would say. And my passion for it faded. And my freshman year of college, man, went really well. Like, it was looking really good to maybe have a chance to play some minor league ball and go that route. But I would just say, man, I fell out of love with it. A couple injuries here and there. I mean, you can go down that whole road. Every ball player says the same thing. But but yeah, I think I got sidetracked again.
I keep doing it.
No,
to
you're
you, man.
good.
You're an
good.
interesting character. This is the first time meeting.
Feeling. We were talking about feeling.
We're talking about feeling. We're talking about
jiu-jitsu,
fly rigs,
right?
And
Jiu-jitsu and baseball. You have to go off feel, and it's a lot about fishing. I think is a lot. You get these intricate. Like, you're just looking at your line.
It's like a little bit of intuition. Like,
exactly.
I'm going to use my 3-weight today because,
And that's the word I was looking for. You hit the nail on the head, was intuition. You're watching your rig float down the river, and you can tell because you've seen it so many times. Like, oh, no, not going to get bit on that cast because it's pulling, or, the current, my line, I should have mended 5 seconds ago. Or you get these little nuances that you start to pick up on in line control and line management. And the more you fish, the better you get at it. But I think once you start to develop those feelings and you understand, like, for me, a big thing is when I'm fishing deep, places like the Blue River, you fish a lot of deep rigs. You like the indicator, right? That little ball you use. There is times where I use it. I prefer not to, but there's certain.
Do you ever use the yarn ones?
I do. And
yeah, those are awesome.
You have to, because those fish. And even in Cheeseman,
because it almost looks like a fly. Yep. I've actually had fish hit my indicator before.
Yeah, it happens, man. It's crazy. You're like,
damn it. You should have had a hook in that one.
Yeah. That's what, you can run a dry dropper and take a big grasshopper pattern and use that as your indicator.
Oh, okay.
And that works. So when they come up and do that, But, you get these little nuances. But that one that's helped me recently, I've been learning to fish deeper rigs, is how that indicator is riding in the water, right? If your flies aren't on the bottom and they're getting pulled, right, because they're not on the bottom, so that weight's still pulling it down, right, that indicator will just sink a little bit, like a half a millimeter, half a centimeter, right, because it's riding lower, it's getting pulled down. Or if they're on the bottom, that thing rides up on the top nice and fluffy because those flies are down there where they need to be. So that has keyed me in a lot of depth, especially when you're fishing like 12, 14 feet deep. There's a lot of room for things to happen.
That's 90% of the battle, right? When you're fishing
weight
with
plus
a
depth
nymph.
equals fish. Like,
right.
If you're not in the right depth zone, you're not going to get bit. And those fish, like, there's so many things have to go right to get bit, and one thing goes wrong, and they're not.
So let's dumb it down a little bit for the listeners.
Right, let's do it.
If you've never fly fished before, there's several different types of flies that you can use, right?
Yep.
There's nymphs. There's dry flies.
Yep.
So a dry fly is going to float on top of the water.
The fish is going to come up and eat it off the top of the water.
Which is awesome. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah.
Yep.
And then a nymph is something that's like a bottom. It's not a bottom feeder. You will explain it
It's an aquatic insect. 90% of a trout's diet is underwater.
Right.
Some people say it's 80. Some people say it's 95. But like somewhere in there, the trout majority of his diet is underwater, right? Sometimes he's feeding in the middle of the water column, right? Like he's in between the bottom and the top. Sometimes he's right on the bottom picking bugs out of the rocks. But mostly the fish are going to hover around 2 to 3, 6 inches off the bottom.
They're kind of just under the current, basically.
And they're going to come, and that's exactly what they do. So think of, not to get sciencey here, but think of rocks on the bottom, right? That river's flowing. Each one of those rocks creates a hydroculation of water, right? It flows over that rock and it goes like you ever see a big rock in a river and how right behind
so it's almost creating a wave like the ocean does,
exactly.
like it breaks,
those
right?
Fish sit under those waves where they don't have to exert any energy, right? So if I'm a fish and there's a rock in front of me, I'm going to sit right behind that rock and I'm going to keep my eyes peeled to both sides, right? And if I see a bug come out, I'm going to slide out, eat it, slide back in. Because right here, I don't have to exert any energy. I'm just chilling. I'm laying on the recliner.
Right.
Where out there, it'd be like running uphill, right? So I just slide in and out. And when you see fish doing that, when they're sliding.
Bob and weave. I'm going back to boxing.
Yep, perfect. I love it.
Mike Tyson.
Bob and weave.
Mike
when
Tyson,
you see a fish bobbing, I'm going to use that from now on. I like that. But when you see them bobbing and weaving, they're eating, right? Yeah. And those are fish you want to fish to. Where if you're walking up the bank and you see a fish and he's laying there, he's not doing anything, just keep walking. It's a waste of time. You can make them eat. If it's a 25-inch, then fish to them because you can make them eat maybe. But if it's a 8, like, you know what I mean? You got to kind of, check and balance.
Pick and choose,
yeah. Pick and choose your battles. But for rigging, most people these days are nymphing or fishing a tandem fly rig with 2 flies and then they're split shot 6 to 8 inches above their first fly.
And those 2 flies would be at different depths, right?
Yep, exactly. So it's what I'll normally do if I'm fishing like that. I'll have my split shot about 8 inches above my first fly. So it'll be like split shot, fly, and then about 16 to 24 inches of line behind that, and then another fly. That's the most common rig. It works in certain situations. There is better rigs. I've started fishing a drop shot rig, which has been awesome.
And are you just doing that with tippet from your leader?
Yeah.
Okay, so to dumb it down even further for people is a fly rig, right?
Yeah, make sure you do that because I'll get in the weeds.
No, it's all good. So you got your reel, your pole. We all know that. The line is almost like if you've ever gone fishing with a bobber or any sort of like floating device, right? Yep. The line is designed to float. And there are some lines that are designed to sink.
Yep.
So you have that line, and that's typically like the colored fluorescent
neon
line
green,
that you're
going
to see.
Orange, yep.
Then at the end of that, you put on a leader, which it kind of tapers down, right?
Yep.
So it starts as fat, and then it tapers down.
Exactly.
And then on the end of that, you tie tippet, and I'm not an expert in this by any means, but the tippet is to kind of save those leaders because they tend to be more expensive.
Exactly.
And also it provides a little bit more of camouflage.
Exactly. It's
and
thinner.
you can change those out, right, depending on how big a fish you're trying to catch. And,
exactly. And how smart they are, right? Like Fish and Cheeseman, you can't go in there with a 3X leader because they see it. They're like, wish. Like, get that away from me. Where if you go down to 6X, which is like 4-pound line generally, 3 to 4 pound line, depending what brand you buy, they're less likely to see it, right? So it's all about, what environment are you fishing in? How big is the fish? Like, I'm not going to go fish a 30-inch trout with 7X leader because if I hook him, guess what? He's going to just break me off. And then I let flies in his mouth with no reason.
And that's really bad.
Yeah, like now this fish isn't going to feed for a day or maybe shakes him out in an hour. I don't know. It just depends. If it's a 30-inch fish, I'm probably going to go like minimum of 5X, and then even that's going to be like a dance. You know what I mean? Like if I hook them, it's going to be, if they get you in trees, you're probably toast. But yeah, so it's fly line to leader to tippet, exactly. And then you tie your flies on the tippet for sure. But rigging, man, you can go so many different ways.
So many different ways to do it. And really, that's kind of the art behind fly fishing is knowing what to fish at what time. And then there's a whole nother level on top of that, right? Because you kind of have to be a bug expert.
Dude, you do. It's crazy.
You have to know what's hatching at the right time or what the fish are hitting on. Yep. Like even if there's bugs hatching, sometimes the fish aren't feeding on those
and
sort of bugs.
It's crazy because you almost have to be like a miniature biologist to really, you have to read and research a lot. But yeah, you're exactly right. Sometimes there's bugs coming off and the fish aren't eating that bug because underneath what you're not seeing is there's something else coming off and they're keyed in on that. But especially these fish in heavily fished areas, they key in on everything, right? Like down to, if you, like let's say you tie your own flies, right? And they're eating a size 22, let's just say a Baetis. That's a type of bug, a Baetis. You need to match the profile first, right? If your fish...
So when you say profile, you're talking size. So
yes, exactly. Size, silhouette.
If you put them side to side or side by side, you want your artificial bug to look as real as possible. It's a decoy.
Yep, exactly. And the taper, fly tying to me is all about tapers, right? Like how your fly generally starts skinnier towards the tail end and gets thicker towards the thorax. And if you miss that, it's a lost cause, really, because those fish are like, oh, why does that bug have a fat ass? Like, literally, like, I know that sounds terrible, but truly, like, if it has like a bump in the middle, so it's really about tapers. And there's times like they don't give a shit, like as long as it's close.
And there's guys that have made a mint, right, off of just patenting a certain fly or an
like I'm in the works of like trying to develop my own patterns and like but it's like it's years process, right? Like people think, oh, this one looks cool, like I'm gonna make it my own pattern. No, like you like start with something and it catches some fish and you're like, okay, what can I add to make this better? What material? And that's like once you start tying your flies, like get the pocketbook ready. Cause
so if you're really into this, it can be a never-ending thing because you don't have to be on the river. I mean, you can be at home tying flies in your, apartment or wherever.
Absolutely. My girlfriend gets pissed off because I'll sit there and like tie flies for 3 hours and like I don't blame her. I'm like, shit, man, I've been sitting here forever. Like, worked all day and I'm tying flies. So it's like, I mean, it is, and like you do it. Like I would call myself at this point obsessed. So it's like a balance of like, okay, how much can I think about fishing today? And like I have to work, and that's why one thing I haven't hit on. I actually just took a new position at Anglers Covey, in Colorado Springs as the assistant manager. So I start that as it's the biggest fly shop in the United States or specialty fly shop. Yeah, it's huge.
Cool. I'm gonna come down and see you,
dude. Come down. We'll get you all set up and we'll shoot the shit. It'll be fun. But it's an awesome fly shop. They have a great operation down there. I'm super excited because my thing lately is I sit at a computer all day, man. I build websites. I do marketing stuff on the computer. And I've just been feeling so drained, man. Like, I'm like, man, I was not built to sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
I got to do something different. And I feel like it's been that way probably for like 6 to 8 months. And finally the right opportunity came. So
good for you, man. I think a lot of people miss that or just get stuck in the rat race or in that.
Dude, 100%.
You know, and it's definitely. Do you have kids?
I do not. No.
Okay, yeah. So it's definitely. I really encourage any young people that are listening to this. It's a little bit different once you have kids.
Yeah,
for
sure.
You need that stability.
Yep,
you need to provide for your family.
Yep.
But even then, you got to take chances, man.
Yeah, and I feel like, man, like for me, like. I would say like through college it was like money, man. Like how can I make $1 million? Like how can I make all this money? Like
that's always young ambition.
Yeah, like how can I do all the side hustle?
I want to get rich.
Like and that's what it was, man. I was like, man, I want like to live that lifestyle where I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want whenever I want to.
It's definitely a balance, right?
It is, and what I found is like, I don't think that's for me. Like that's not what makes me happy. While I thought it was, it's not. Like what makes me happy is spending time on the river, doing fun things with my girlfriend, like in more of like a lifestyle. And like for me, it's like. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit on the money side to like do something I love and feel fulfilled because like for me to get out of work or get out of bed and go to work at 8 is like pulling teeth.
Well, there's one thing money can't buy.
Happiness, man.
Well, that's happiness.
See, like I don't know if I agree with that.
Time.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You know, you can't buy more time with
I bet if you
no matter how much money you have.
Yeah, if you were to ask like billionaires and stuff, they'd be like, what do you need more of? They'd probably say time.
Time.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And like, dude, and I work for a tech startup, so like I see it. Like I know dudes that, are doing really well for themselves and like it does not equate to happiness.
Sure.
So I think that it's just like, I think it's individualized to everybody. What makes you
tick?
For me, dude, it's catching huge trout. Like I love it. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm done with work. Like I'm on my phone. I'm like time fly. Like it's just like truly. It's like I get like kind of weird. I'm like, man, what the fuck? Like,
and the more you immerse yourself into something, the better you get at it. I feel like,
and it makes it easier to talk about, and you get better at it. And it just like, right? Like at my work, like I had an employee, a good friend of mine, who like he can talk to clients like no one I've ever seen, like, and make them buy anything because he's passionate and you can feel it spew through his voice and his tone and it just pours out of him, right? Where me, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'd like to think I'm good at it, but I don't love to do it. Where fishing for me, it's like I can talk for hours about it because it's what I love.
Yeah.
So I think for me, like I'm 23, I was like, man, like I'm going to go chase what I want to do, like my passion. So
yeah. Awesome. Have you ever done any saltwater fly fishing?
I have not done saltwater fly fishing. I've done some saltwater fishing, and I love it.
Yeah.
But no, it's something I actually want to get into. I was thinking maybe this summer. I got a couple of trips planned to like North Carolina back to see the fam and stuff. I'd love to go. I don't know what North Carolina has to offer for saltwater fly fishing, but I think like down like towards the Florida Keys, you can really have a good time.
Yeah.
So, and that's relatively.
I got some buddies that do it in California, like
Dude,
up around the Bay Area and stuff like that,
it.
and they go and catch these sea bass or whatever they are, man. And
tarpon, dude. Like,
yeah, I haven't. They've been bugging me to go. I haven't had a chance, but I really want to. Have you ever done any Alaska fishing, Canada,
I haven't,
anything
man.
like that?
My brother,
that's on my bucket list too. I haven't either.
Maybe we can go together. Man. My brother spent it for mountain school in the military. He spent a lot of time in Alaska, and then I actually have family in Alaska, so it's like why?
Oh yeah, why
have I not been there? Like I need to go. So maybe next summer I can plan a trip. But
yeah,
dude, I just feel like, man,
it's hard to leave Colorado, and that's where I am with hunting. Like,
man,
when it comes to hunting, it's like I just want to hunt close to home. I want to be where I know. I enjoy doing it. Like,
dude, we're on the same wavelength there, because I was about to say the same thing. Is like, so like many people want to do these destination trips, and go chase trout, and like I can't say that because I'd love to go to New Zealand. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
but
like so many people want to go.
It's an incredible place. If you've never been there, I highly recommend doing it.
I'll have to check it out, man.
And unfortunately, the couple times that I was there, it was on rock tours.
Okay.
So it was just like in and out, kind of super fast, and didn't really have a whole lot of time other than exploring. But I could kick myself in the ass for not fishing there.
Dude, I know. I gotta go. I've seen so many videos, and like the quality of the trout over there, like everything you catch is just
Russia too, right? There's a bunch of.
Well, dude, I think like Russia and like some of those like Alps states have huge trout in there too, and I know like.
We actually have some Italian listeners. Shout out to all of our Italian listeners out there that post some like crazy, like they found me through Instagram or something, and they're big trout fishermen.
Dude, I believe it, man.
Dude.
Well, you have like the Italian Alps and the Swiss Alps. Like those all are conducive to like good quality water and big fish. I think too, like New Zealand has these canals, man. A lot of them are heated from like power plants, and they heat the water year round. So it's basically the same temperature, an environment similar to Cheeseman, right? They keep the water temperature and the flows as regulated as they can. I mean, they just like 20 pound, 25 pound rainbows, just huge trout. But yeah, dude, to hit to your point, man, like it is hard to leave Colorado. Like I just feel like I've only scratched the surface, so I'm like, I want to go
there's so many places to go.
Like, dude, I haven't really fished the southwest.
For me, it's native trout. Like I don't.
Yeah, I haven't.
I love getting into cutthroats and those high mountain lakes and stuff like that.
Dude, my buddy catches some of the like world class cutthroat. Like
it's part of the experience is hiking in there.
And camping, cooking your own food, and having a blast. And man, and the stars, man, that was one thing I had never seen from Pennsylvania. Like I came out here and camped in the mountains.
Yeah, that's hard to explain to somebody. We've brought it up on the podcast a couple times, and it's just until you've experienced that firsthand.
Right.
It's almost eye-opening, right?
It really is.
At this altitude, or if you're above 10,000 feet.
Well, that's what I think is the difference. And this is how I try to explain it. Probably still doesn't do it any justice. But I like to think you're in a snow globe of stars.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer way down low. They're around you. Like you look to your left, there's stars because you're up high. You're at a point on a peak on a mountain. You look to your right, and there's stars. So they're all around you. Whereas like in Pennsylvania, when you see the stars, they're just straight up.
You know how I kind of compare it is, if you've ever seen one of those Starscape photos,
right?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's like the Milky Way. And
you can see it all.
I saw a crazy photo of a photographer from Vail took, what is it called? Red Cliff. Have you heard of Red Cliff?
Oh yeah, it's
dude. He took a picture of the Milky Way over that bridge in Red Cliff. Yeah. And I was just like, whoa. It was like 2 a.m.
Red Cliff is a little diamond in the rough right there, man. Yeah. It's beautiful town.
I hope I didn't just piss anybody off.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure we're going to get some hate mail over it. But it's just surrounded by the Santa Ana Cristo Mountains right there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I've never been. I'll have to check it out. But, man, this picture was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a great spot. You know, the thing is with that, though, too, is it's not – you can catch so much more in a photo, and there's so much editing and stuff that goes on, right? Because those exposures are like a 30-second exposure, right? So if you've ever seen like where a photographer will take a photo of like a highway or the water, right?
The flow,
So that's kind of what it is with the stars. So sometimes I've seen photographers where they even take it and they can actually get the rotation of the earth in there.
That's fucking
so the stars are making light trails, right?
Yeah. Oh wow, that's incredible.
It's insane.
Yeah, man. I think too. Like I've been photography, like taking pictures of fish, and like I have traveled a decent amount of the United States and seen some cool national parks and stuff. But photography, man, it's a lot of fun. And people, you hear a lot, right? The fly fishing, like, oh man, why don't you just enjoy the moment? Like, screw taking photos. Like, just because I like to look back on them and remember that fish. You know what I mean? I can look back on a photo and be like, man, I remember exactly what I was talking about when that fish bit and what fly and what like, that's what it's about for me, is more or less remembering and just like slowly building this awesome album of.
That's how I am with elk, man. I'd rather go take photos of them than actually hunt them. Like, I want to go meat hunt real quick,
right?
Get it done in a couple days, right?
Freezer,
fill up the freezer and then go take photos of the big bulls.
Dude, I'm excited to shoot an elk this year, man. Me and my brother are gonna go. Last year he shot an elk, and the tenderloin steaks we made were like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. They were unreal.
Awesome.
I was like, I've been dreaming about it since.
Yeah,
but
I lucked out. I drew some good tags this year.
Oh, so good, man. Good for you, man. Yeah. Good stuff. I'm excited to see the
about
pics.
that. Yeah.
That'll be cool. But yeah, man, I feel like photography is like, dude, it's a whole nother like skill set to learn. Like you were talking about exposures and shutter speeds and ISO and like everything in between.
Same sort of thing. It's like fly fishing. Yeah, you can go as deep as you want. You can spend as much money as you want. You can, I mean, it's ridiculous, you know.
It is. I feel like everything's like that these days.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. You can go down a rabbit hole on a lot of different stuff.
For sure.
But let's talk a little bit. Like, you spend a lot of time in the rivers.
Yep, for sure.
What are some things that you see that you think people could do better?
Trash.
You know, you see trash. I pick up a lot of trash out of the river whenever I go.
And here's like, people don't realize, but fishing.
Tackle is trash.
Yeah. Oh, man. Like, think every rig that gets broken off in the river, dude, monofilament line doesn't decay. It's like, I saw a stat the other day. It's like 80 or 100 years or 60 years. It's some ridiculous number. So when you go and you cut off all that junk, and this is what people do, truly, and it makes me sick. And like, I've seen my friends do it, and I immediately like jump on their shit. They'll take like their whole rig that just got fouled up in that tree and it's a big bird's nest, and they just clip it off and throw it on the ground. Like, do you understand when you're 100 years old, if you live to be that long,
it's the same
that
as
rig
throwing
is going to be right there.
A plastic bag or
it's the same thing.
Water bottle.
And with so many people fishing, like, you got to think like the river bottom's cluttered, but like not only is it fishing line, it's beer cans, it's bottles, it's Doritos bags, it's everything in between. And I encourage you, if you have a net and you're walking down the river and you see a beer can, just throw it in your net.
Or even if you have trash in your yard. I think a lot of that is, that's how it ends up there, right? Like, I don't think people intentionally throw it in the river and like, oh, it's going to go downstream. Maybe some people do, but if you do that, you're an asshole. Sorry. But I think a lot of it is like, just if you see it anywhere, pick it up, because it's going to end up in our waterways, right? It rains. It washes down the gutter. The gutter runs into the river. The river runs into
a duck's neck or in a fish's mouth or whatever. But yeah, I think trash is huge. I think too, like, just mishandling everything, right? Like trails. Like, if there's a trail, just walk and you can get to the same place. Like bushwhacking, I'm all for it. Like, if that's gonna get you to the spot that nobody else is going,
sure,
bushwhack. But if there's a trail, like, stay on a designated trail. It's easier to walk. It's better. I mean, especially like places like Cheeseman. Every time a flash flood happens in there, man, you lose bank. Like, that canyon wall is flowing. And last year, or was it last year or the year before, we had a terrible flash flood. And from all the fires, there's no trees left to catch the water, so it just floods off the bank. You have now silt all through the river. So it's like, let's just, it's not much. It probably doesn't even make a difference, but like, let's just do our part to, preserve the stream bank. Same with the Dream Stream, man. That bank is like falling in, and if you're crawling all over the bank in places you shouldn't be, pushing more dirt in, the river gets wider and wider, the fish habitat changes, and it's just let's leave as little.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because 10 years from now, if we just keep doing it, it's just gonna be suck.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of things like that. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think what. Really, though, I think anglers are good, man. I think the angling community, we're aware. I think they do a good job. I think a lot of shops push the right agenda. I think a lot of guides push the right agenda. I think we have a lot of good people in sports. So I think it's just, and like I said, it's the same thing with walking on reds or fishing on reds. It's not a ethical dilemma. It's an education thing. So I think that's
awesome.
It's a fixable problem.
Yeah, well, man, I really appreciate you coming down. We're coming up on our time here, and this was great. We'd love to have you back, man. We learned a lot. I learned some stuff, and
this has been awesome.
I really feel like our listeners did, and we'll be definitely visiting you at your new job, man.
Let's do it, man.
If you guys want any guiding or you want to find you online, chat, I know that you're super accessible and you take the time to talk to everybody. which is super cool. And, you know, why don't you tell people where they can find you? I know you got a website.
I'm kind of all over the place. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, I reply to DMs super fast. I try to reply to everybody too. So any questions, feel free to hit me up there. I do have a website. I'm actually launching a new website soon that'll have, I plan to do like blog posts and just push out as much educational stuff as I can to try to help you guys out. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll be working at Anglers Covey starting June 15th in the spring. So come down, we'll get you hooked up and give you the inside scoop.
That's awesome, man. I know you're not a Colorado native, but we are happy to have you. And
you, man.
The reason why is because you're an advocate for fly fishing.
Yep.
And I really enjoy what you're doing. And I would just say keep it up, man. And
I appreciate it, man. Thank
please,
you so much.
You know, keep posting pictures and teaching people the rights and wrongs, man, a little bit. I think everybody needs to learn that, and I think the education's great, man. So I'm glad to have you here, and hope to see you on the river, man. Hopefully we can go fish together sometime.
For sure. I'm always down to fish with new people. Same with everybody out there listening. If you want to hit the water, just let me know. And man, thanks for having me. This has been an awesome experience. This is impressive, the setup. I think you guys are going to blow it up, so I'm excited to.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear, man. We're glad to have you, and we want to have you back. So.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right.
We'll revisit soon.
Cool. Jeremy, you all good back there, man?
That was great, dude.
Awesome. All right, to all the listeners out there, stay safe, get in the water. Weather's getting nice. Get that fly rig together. All right. See you guys later. Hey, everyone. Thank you for all the support that we have out there. And we truly appreciate all of our Mountainside listeners. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please like, follow, comment, subscribe wherever you catch the Mountainside podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also, if you'd like some more information on the podcast, please check out our website at themountainsidepodcast.com.